Hello everyone. We are going to get started with our webinar. I do have a question box down here, so I will check questions throughout the webinar. Certainly anyone that has any sort of question at all, please feel free to ask. You can just type it in the box there and I will be checking them. I do often notice when we're doing these sort of instructional tutorials, everyone is sort of focused, and so we don't really have too many questions through the event. But of course, if you have any, feel free to put them in there, and I will do my best to answer those for you. So today we are doing a video on how to build your mobile app with SnAPPii. And certainly in the time that we have, I don't think we'll walk through every possible feature. There's just so much to it. But that said, I do want to be able to take you through, as a new user, starting from this screen here, which you can see in front of you. It's sort of the after I register, here's what I'm looking at screen. And I want to take you through from this point right into your options for how you can start to build your app, and then sort of the key functionalities and features that you want to be able to utilize, from background images to one-touch features like calling, texting, emailing, and setting up a number of different screens and the options you have for that. So again, we're just going to kind of walk through what the product can do sort of on the back end in beginning to build your mobile app. And I expect that we're going to be doing a series of these. We have been doing some individual webinars on specific functionality, like building a data connector and doing advanced lists and advanced forms. Those are really sort of the very detailed pieces of building your app, and so each one of them is a webinar in itself. And so you certainly can visit our website at any time, SnAPPii.com, right here, and under the Resources tab, you'll see webinars, as well as our user manual, which has a lot of instructions on how to execute various things. But under our webinars page, we do have the opportunity for you to go out to all of our instructional videos, and each one of them is named specifically for that functionality. So for example, if you were looking for how to implement a call button in your app, there is a video out there specifically for the call button. And there will be a video moving forward for each one of the functionalities within the WYSIWYG editor. So as you're pulling up a new functionality, if you're unclear what it does, you'll actually be able to watch the video right there from within the editor by pushing the video tutorial button. So once you have registered for your SnAPPii account and you hit login, you're going to see this screen come up, and it's the same screen every time that you log in. How do I want to build my app? And this will show up whether or not you have apps already in several stages of building. You can choose from a template. You can start from scratch. Or again, if you have apps already in process, you would hit Open My Apps. We'll just take a look at what a ready-made template looks like. So here you can see a number of various ready-made apps is really what they are. These are the apps for various industries that we've created for you to start from. So we've got them broken out here by industry. So this is sort of every pre-built app we have available presently. We are in the process of building several more, as well as revamping the ones that we have to really take advantage of the features and functionality that we offer. So for example, if we pick Grand Hotel, that may be an app that we're interested in looking at because you may be in the hotel services industry. You can see just a basic mock-up of functionality here. And if you clicked any one of these, you would see information already put in here for you, and what you're basically looking at. So see here, you can see the functionality of being set up with PayPal. What this is offering you is a glimpse of an app that's already been started. And if you are interested in this particular app, and you can see there's Facebook implementation right there, you would have the option, once you chose one of our ready-made apps that you might be interested in, to have us customize it for you. Perhaps you like the overall general idea, the layout, the information that's in there, and you want to have all of your personal information entered in there and branded for your business. You can choose Customize the App for me. Or if you're looking to customize the app yourself, you simply hit Customize the App myself. And this is going to bring you into the SnAPPii WYSIWYG editor. And once you become familiar with beginning to build your app, you will notice that every time you log in and have that front screen about going to a ready-made template, starting from scratch, or going to My Apps, that this is the view you will see once you go into your apps. So now what we've done is we've clicked on that pre-built template, or the ready-made app, if you will, and all of the information about that app now exists in an app here in your own personal account. Now, what I would suggest before you do anything else is to save this as an app in your account. Right now it's sitting here ready to edit, but it's not actually saved into your account. So you want to click Save App As, and of course whatever you want to call it. I'm just going to call it our hotel test, and click OK. And now you can see your app was successfully saved, and it now exists as an app in your account. And what we can do to test that and be sure that that is the case is we can just click on My Apps. Now I have a number of apps in here because this is a demo account that I use, but you can see here that the app does exist with the name I gave it. Now, since you've looked at a ready-built template, each one of these fields you have the ability to click on and change with your own personal information. Obviously, this is a photo. You have the opportunity to click on it and add your own photo. In the contact screen, same thing. We've created one-touch call buttons, a feedback button. In the reservations area, we've created a form. And again, depending on what it is that you need, you have the ability to alter every one of these fields, from the fields that people fill in to the field names themselves. However, I'm going to start you actually from scratch right at the very beginning, because if you're using a template like this, as I said, you've got the ability to change all of the things that are existing now in this template. You also have the ability to add anything you want to make it completely customized and ready for your business purposes. But what I'm going to do is take you to a completely blank app so that you can see what each one of these functionalities means and what they do and how you can alter them. So we are going to click a new app, and I don't want to save my changes to the app I was just using. So when you log into SnAPPii, if you are coming to the screen where you can choose a ready-made app, go to your apps or start from scratch. If you choose start from scratch, you just want to have a completely blank canvas to work with. This is what you are going to see. This is the SnAPPii WYSIWYG editor. And this is an iPhone mock-up. It's just what we chose to use as the mock-up. But of course, because SnAPPii apps have the opportunity to work on iPhone, iOS devices, iPads, Android devices, including phones and tablets. What you see here does translate. So even though it's an iPhone mock-up, certainly if you're building an app for Android, it is going to work on Android. You're just going to see it on a mock-up here. So over here on the left-hand side in your app settings, you'll see a number of things right here. These are related to both the App Store and to the beginning color theme of your app. So icon, for example, right now by default you see the SnAPPii icon. This is the icon that will show in the App Store, or both stores if you're doing Android and Apple. So it could be a logo, or some type of photo that you have specific to your app that you want to be able to show in the App Store. So when people are out searching for an app, or perhaps click on a QR code that you might have made available for people to scan with their phone, and bring them out to the app, this is the image that they're going to see. And you have the opportunity to upload that image from your computer. You can specify a web page where that image exists. You could find something on the web. So if you wanted to pull a logo file, for example, of your logo that perhaps you didn't already have in your computer, you could find it on the web by specifying the name of the logo here. Or you could specify a URL. So if your images are sitting in a more public shared domain like a Dropbox or Flickr account, you could specify the specific URL where the image could be found, and it will be pulled in for your icon. Your splash screen, again, once you have actually gotten to the point where you're ready to launch your app live, so you're going to submit it to the app stores, and so you have purchased your actual subscription from SnAPPii, you will want to choose your splash screen. Again, right now it is default SnAPPii splash screen. You can choose which devices you are actually launching for. So for the iPhone, iPod, Android, just for the iPhone 5, just for the iPad, then you would determine the sizing for your splash screen is going to happen automatically by picking which device you need. As you can see here, it tells you the recommended sizing. And then again, you have the ability to choose your file. And in this case, you would choose the file from your computer, from your laptop or your PC, Mac device, and upload that splash screen. Your color theme here is where you can determine all of the coloring of your app. So this is a background color, and you really have a lot of flexibility in the colors that you choose for the background of your app. So we're just going to pick a color here, and the foreground of the app, and you can see as you're clicking the different colors. Okay, the navigation bar, which is right here of your app. Again, you can click the different colors you might be interested in utilizing. You can see that. Made the change right there. Your search bar right here. And again, you can change any of the colors, none of the colors. Lists. So for example, right here, if you were to have any kind of a list in your app, you have the opportunity to have it be all one color, or to have two different colors, which I find to be beneficial because it just simply helps things stand out a little bit more, especially if you have a list that has many, many items on it. I think it's easier visually just to have two different colors here. And so we can just pick a couple of different colors, and we're just going to leave the gray as it is. Okay, and then the text in your app, again, you can sort of determine what colors you want to utilize there. Your buttons. So right here. Now, the color of the buttons in your app, you may determine that all of the buttons in your app you want to have photos associated with them or icon images as opposed to being text like these are. But for any buttons where you might have text involved, you would want to choose a color for those by default so that they will always come up as that particular color. And the text color. Okay, and then you can choose from several different fonts. And then web apps. So if you were going to be launching only as a web app, you could then select the background color that you wanted for your app and the color theme. And you can see here the different colors you can choose from. Once you've selected your color theme, now you can see that that actually appears within my app. So there's the title bar color that I selected, the standard background color, and as we start to add in buttons and other features with text, you'll see how the different colors I selected show up. And so then just sort of scrolling down here, this information here, app information, again, this is related to what will show up in the App Store. So this description here, this is going to be the description of your app that people will see in the App Store. So you do want to try to give as much information as you can about what the app does and who it's for, so that people get that impression of whether or not it's a beneficial app for them. There are many categories that you can choose from for the type of app that you are offering. Again, related to the App Store, and then tags. And tags is related to when people are searching in the App Store, perhaps for a certain type of app. They don't necessarily know that they're looking for your app specifically, but maybe they're looking for apps that do a certain function. They might be looking for something generic like a restaurant app, or they might be looking for something more specific like apps related to travel reservations, for example. And then so if travel or reservation were one of your key tags, people would be able to search by that, and your app would be one of many that show up so that they can look at them and get further information. The miscellaneous, excuse me, I'm just going to move my little question bar for a moment. Miscellaneous here. So if your users are doing a sign up, if you put in a registration and you want people to be able to receive a newsletter, or it's just a general registration for your app so that you can send them out information specifically that they might be interested in, you can determine what that message is going to say that they are going to see once they've signed up. Here is where you can choose the language for your app. SnAPPii currently supports 17 different languages. And then, of course, if you were to have something like a Facebook ID, or you wanted to change related email information here, you could do that as well. You can see there are lots of little question bars, so I'm going to push one here. So this is telling you specifically, let me move my little question box again, sorry about that, specifically giving you information on what these things mean. Your HTML5 web app settings, again, this is specifically related to your web app. If you're going to be launching as a web app only, you would put this information in there. So your home image URL, for example, would go here. Your background image here. And again, you can determine how you want your web app to show. And I'm going to pick 3 columns for now. We will actually take a look at what that looks like. It just gives you the opportunity to lay out your buttons. So say, for example, on this home screen, you might have 6 different buttons. And in a web app, you have the opportunity to show them where you're going to see 6 buttons all in a single file row, 2 columns, so you'd have 3 buttons in each column, or 3 columns, and in that case, you'd have 2 buttons in each column. Again, really, this is just related to your web app. User management has to do with logging in and who has access to what things within your app. By default, general mode is anybody. Anyone who downloads your app once it has been published to the App Store has the opportunity to see all of the information in the whole app. Tabs, screens, button functionality, and so forth. You do have the opportunity, however, to limit what people can see, what information, through user management. And again, I'm going through this information relatively quickly, partially so that we can get to everything, and partially because things like user management, which are a little bit more detailed, will be having a webinar of their own specifically related to that information. So we've got product tutorials on our website that will walk you through a lot of these specific details that take a little bit more time. But just to sort of finish up the idea here, predefined users and members. Predefined users could be, for example, this might be an app that's available to the public, but you may also have a section of the app that you want only your employees to see. You can upload a spreadsheet of employees with whatever sort of username and password you've defined for them. So that way, information that you put in here, perhaps specific lists or forms that you want only to be related to your employees, they would be required when they hit that tab or button to log in order to see further information in the app, whereas the general user would not be able to see that information because obviously they're not one of the predefined users. Also, if you had some type of a registration in your app where anyone could utilize your app, but perhaps only registered users could see specific functionality in the app, you can also have members, and again, uploading the spreadsheet with defined usernames and passwords will allow you to further segment the information that users can see. And then last here are your PayPal settings. So if you are doing any type of e-commerce, whether you're a hotel type of business that takes reservations online and wants your customers to be able to process the purchasing of that reservation, or you may be a company that has a product that you want them to be able to actually buy those products online, you have the ability to do that through PayPal. We currently use PayPal because of their secure APIs. So you have the opportunity to implement a test version of the PayPal account so that you can set everything up in your app and actually do sort of live testing once you've saved all of the information through the SnAPPii Preview app right on your device, so that you'll see everything the user would see when the app was actually live. But of course, you want to be able to go through the process, for example, of making a purchase through your app, seeing what the user sees without it actually requiring any real money to be transferred. So you have the opportunity to do that with what is called a PayPal Sandbox account, which is basically a demo or test account. Then obviously, once you were all set and happy with the way everything was working in your app, you could then change over to your live account here. And we do have detailed information in our user manual on how to set up your PayPal account to actually utilize within the app. And as well, we will be doing a product tutorial specifically on PayPal, although we do have a product tutorial available now from a webinar that we did specifically on e-commerce. So again, if you go to our website and you click on webinars, you'll be able to find a button that will take you to all of our different videos. And the e-commerce video walks you through how to set up a product list, how to do your PayPal account, and how that all works on the back end for the user. So going into sort of the heart of the editor here, and I'm going to close up our app settings. And I'm going to check questions quickly here just to be sure. Okay, and we don't have any questions currently. So I'm going to continue. What you see here, now you'll notice we have sort of accordion folders, if you will. Let me close this up so I can show you. So we have an all button, which shows you all of the various tabs that we have available. And then you have them broken out into specific functionality. So for example, social. Here are all of the social related tabs that we offer right now. Certainly for beginning purposes, using the all button is probably the easiest because it brings everything up for you until you become familiar with everything and then know, oh, the communicate button right here, or the communicate folder, is going to have my things underneath it, like the notifications tab, for my users to get notifications that I might send out. So you notice there are two sections in the WYSIWYG editor. Well, technically there are three. There's also form fields down here, which I'll go over briefly as well. You have tabs and you have elements, also known as buttons. The real difference here is that a tab, which sits down here on the bottom bar, if you will, and this is how it shows up for the user as well, whether it is an Android or an iPhone or an iPad user or tablet. The tab has a specific function associated with it. So for example, the Facebook tab. If we bring the Facebook tab down here, you can see that it opens up the title and the tab name. So the tab name, we've called it Facebook. Certainly you could call it something else if you wanted to, call it social or call it nothing because it has a Facebook icon already. You're welcome to do that. The URL here is generically set to Facebook. Now you can use this tab in one of two ways. If you leave it blank other than what's already filled in here, it will take the user to Facebook in general, and they will be able to then log into their Facebook account and access their account while they're inside your app. So it's a nice convenient thing for them to have to be able to access their Facebook account while utilizing your app for various different functions. If you wanted this Facebook tab to take the user to your Facebook page and allow them to download that page into the app so that they can access that information, get your Facebook updates and so forth, you would then add your, you would then add your Facebook address right here, and the user would then be able to see your Facebook feed. Now, the tab, as I mentioned, that does one thing. So, for example, the Facebook tab, when a user presses that tab, it takes them to the Facebook page. That's the only thing that it does. If we go back to our home screen, here I have a Facebook button or element. If I bring this button over here, I now see some similar information to what I saw on the tab. I still see the label. Again, I could call it Facebook, or I could leave it blank. In this case, I'm going to just leave it blank because I have my nice Facebook icon here already. I can change the height and width of my button. Excuse me. So based on any other information I might be putting on the screen, images, other icons, I have the availability of being very flexible with the size of my button so that it fits in and looks graphically pleasing with everything else that might be on that screen. I could make the button be text only. Now this is where we were talking about in your color theme. Here you can see our Facebook button has an icon associated with it. If I only wanted to have that button perhaps say Facebook, and I didn't want to show an icon, I would click the View Text Only right here. I can determine if I want to use rounded corners or not on my icons, and that's true for every icon that you have. Rounded corners are the default, but certainly if you chose not to use the rounded corners, then they would just show up as squares or rectangles, depending on the size you chose. And you can also decide if you want to have the default glossy look or not. Again, it's personal preference, and you just can test it out. You can always go back in, so I'm not going to use the glossiness. I'm not going to name my icon anything, and I'm just going to hit OK so you can see. And there's my Facebook button without the glossiness. It doesn't say Facebook underneath, it just shows you what it looks like. If I want to go in and edit this button, maybe I've decided I want to do text only on my button, or I want to change the icon, you simply click on the button and you've got three options: copy, edit, or remove. So in this case I want to edit, and it just brings this screen right back up again. I could say in this case I only want to view it as a text button. So we're going to put Facebook back in there. And I'm going to change my width because I want to accommodate for the fact that the word Facebook has to be able to fit in my button. Click OK again. And now you can see my button has changed to be text only with the label Facebook in it. And again, this sort of grayish color for my button, I chose that as part of my color themes over here. If, again, you're looking at this information and you're thinking, I really don't like that gray button, go right back into your color themes, go to your buttons, change the color, click OK, and now you can see the color of my button has changed. So you really have a lot of flexibility. It's not a situation where once you've done something, that's it, and you can't go back and make changes. You have a lot of flexibility to make the changes as you go along. So I'm going to leave my Facebook button just as it is for now. And one thing I would say is that you want to be sure that as you're working, you don't go an hour or 2 hours without saving your app. Simply by nature of being anything on the internet, you never know when something could happen, and you could lose power or somehow lose your internet connection. You don't want to lose all the work that you've done on your app. So be sure that you save it as you go along. Now in this case, this is my brand new app. I haven't even saved it one time yet. So the first time I save it, I'm going to do Save App As. And just name it whatever you'd like. And click OK. And now you'll see it's gone through. And now when I want to save my app after this, I'm simply going to hit Save App because it already recognizes that my app has been saved. And you can confirm that as well, either by hitting My Apps and looking at it, or by looking up here. You'll see your app has a unique number, a 5-digit number, in this case 39121. That is a unique identifier to this particular app only. You might have 5 apps in your account. All 5 apps are going to have a different 5-digit number associated with them. So if you ever need to contact support for any reason and they ask you what your app ID is, that is this 5-digit number right here. So I'm going to go back in here, and we were talking about tabs and buttons and how they were different. So to sort of come back around on that, again, my tab, when I drop my Facebook tab down, if a user clicks on the Facebook tab, the only thing that they can access in that tab is Facebook. When I use a button, now when my user clicks on that button, they could go into Facebook. But I might want to put many things on this particular screen. So for example, perhaps this is going to be my social screen, and I'm going to put Twitter on here, and I'm going to put other icons as well. So this works exactly the same way as the Facebook button. It has a label already. You can choose to leave that label or not. The username by default is SnAPPii's username. You are going to want to change that, obviously, either to your Twitter feed address, or you're going to leave it blank. If you put your Twitter feed address in there, when the user pushes on the Twitter button, they'll see your Twitter feed within the app. If you leave it blank, the user will be able to go out to Twitter, log in, and pull their own feed into the app. And you're not limited if you want to be able to have different Twitter buttons. Perhaps you're going to have a contact page. And in that contact page, not only do you want to have things like phone number, email, and texting capabilities, but you want users to be able to see your Facebook account and see your Twitter feed. You can do that. Also, you can put another Twitter button, perhaps in specifically a social page like we're creating here, and by leaving it blank, the user would be able to pull in their own Twitter feed, their own Facebook page, and so forth. So the only other thing that we hadn't gone over, and again, Twitter set up the same way as Facebook as far as the height and width, viewing the text, glossiness, and so forth. We didn't go over specify your icon. So by default, the Twitter icon has this logo that we have pre-selected. If you would like to do something different, you can click specify my icon. And when you do this, you have a number of options here. You can pick an icon from our pre-built library. We've got many different icons that you can choose from. And you also can upload an image from your computer. Now, it doesn't have to be anything that references Twitter specifically. Perhaps you want to use some type of an image, a smiley face or the picture of a lake, whatever it is, and then you're just going to label your Twitter button Twitter. You can certainly do that. You can also find an image on the web. So, for example, we're going to look up Twitter. And you'll see that a number of different icons show up related to Twitter. And you might decide you want to use one of these. And so we're just going to pick one so that you can see what happens. You click OK once you've picked it. And once you've come back to this screen here, what you can see is that it has recognized that there's a Twitter feed being set up. And you can click OK. Now you can see that my Twitter button did in fact change to the icon that I selected, the little bird. If you were to click on that icon, what you see here is nothing. You see nothing because I removed the SnAPPii address on my Twitter icon and left it blank so that my users could hit this Twitter button. It will bring them out to log into their own account and pull their feed in right here. If I had left the SnAPPii address, when you clicked on this button, on the back end, you would see the SnAPPii Twitter feed show up instead of a blank screen. So all of the social buttons work the same way as far as bringing it over, dropping it in, and again, we'll do the same thing here with LinkedIn. Bring it over, drop it wherever you want on the screen. Again, you've got complete flexibility in where you want it. You can give it a name. You can determine if it is going to go to a specific LinkedIn URL or if it's going to go to the user's account so that they can log in and pull their own information and see their own LinkedIn feed. You can change the icon, the height and width. In this case, we'll change it so you can see how it would be different. And you also have the availability of saying you want it to be text only. I'm going to click OK, and now you can see that my button got much larger. Again, completely based on your user interface, the type of look and feel you're trying to accomplish for your users. And you'll notice each time you click on an icon, any kind of text, or any other element that you have put in your app, clicking on it and starting to move it, you'll see a grid here to help you line up where you want that information. So now you can see I've got 3 buttons on this screen. In my Facebook tab, again, I click on my Facebook tab, the only thing I can see is Facebook. In this particular tab or screen, so far I've got 3 different elements or 3 different buttons that my users can take advantage of. So a tab has a single functionality, whereas buttons mean that you can have multiple functionality on a different screen. Now, an image. If you want to have any kind of image, whether it's a photo that you're going to be using your logo, or it could be a specific photo related to, for example, your different properties. So if this is a hotel app and you've got 5 different properties, you might want to have different photos with those different properties showcased. You might want to do some type of almost a photo tour, if you will. You can, again, use a logo. The other thing that you can do is if you wanted textual information to show up in your app, but perhaps you want it to be different than what we offer for text options, which I will show you in a moment, you have the opportunity to, for example, open up a program like Microsoft Word. You could choose a colored background, your different fonts, different font effects, and so forth. Once you have it laid out the way you want, you can then use a tool like the snipping tool and save that specific word art text, for example, as an image. Then you can upload that to your app. So again, specifying your image here is pretty much the same as when we pulled over one of our social icons. Click on specify your image. Now you can upload something from your computer. You can specify a web page. So for example, I'm just going to grab a picture here and I'm going to see that it's going to show up. That is the picture that I want, and I can click OK. But you could also specify a web page, find it on the web by using a search string again, or if you had perhaps a public folder like a Dropbox or Flickr, or even if you wanted to use an image that you found on Google, non-copyrighted image, you could specify that URL as well. So I'm going to click OK on my image. Now see here, you can see that the image shows up on my screen automatically. I want to change the height and width because I don't happen to want this to be a background image, but I will show you how to do that in a moment. So the height of my image, I'm just going to change here. And again, you have the availability of making your image all kinds of different sizes. Your only limitation is that your width is 320. That's the widest you can make it. And if you do try to do it longer than that, for example, I'm going to hit 400 and hit OK, it's going to tell me that I've gone out of my maximum range of 320. So you don't necessarily have to remember that 320 is there. I'm going to click OK. Now you can see that my image has shown up in my app. And I can put that anywhere that I want on the screen. And the screen space that you see here is not the only amount of space you have to utilize. So you might have information where the users are going to have to scroll down the screen to see everything because perhaps you want to put a lot of information in this particular screen. You absolutely have the ability to do that. And as a matter of fact, you see that you can scroll that screen up and down. This is the same way that the user would be able to scroll their screen as well when utilizing the app. So again, make sure that you're saving along the way, and you have the ability at any time to be testing everything that you're doing here so that you can see on your device what the user actually sees. Gives you the opportunity to test the functionality. Is it working right? Does it look the way I want it? Then you can come back in and change it at any time. And again, in order to test your functionality, you simply want to go to your device, into your App Store, and download the free SnAPPii Preview app. This will then allow you to log in to your SnAPPii account right from your device. You will see your app and be able to open it up and utilize it exactly as your users would be seeing it for testing purposes. Now, what I'm going to do here is, you can see I've got my home screen here, which I have added some social buttons to. And I've got my Facebook tab, which I dropped down. Now I would like to add a new tab. I want to have a whole new blank page to work from here. So I'm just going to pull down a new tab, and you drop it right here. And you can call it whatever you want. So in this case, I'm going to call this my Contact Us. And I'm going to give it the same title as tab name. And I can also specify my tab icon. Again, we have a pre-built library of icons that you can choose from. So this is the Contact Us. I'm just going to pick an icon to show you. Click OK. Now you can see that my tab does say Contact Us. And my title, that's what the title means right here. So in this particular tab, I want to put in a background image. And then I want to put in some functionalities like one-touch calling, texting, and email as ways that my users can contact me or my business. So to do a background image, it is exactly the same as the way you just did an image on the first screen. You specify your image. And by default, SnAPPii is going to pull up some various images. Again, you can upload one from your computer, and you could find one on the web. So in this case, we're going to do sunshine. Click OK, and a number of different icons are going to show up that you could choose from. So we're just going to pick this one. And again, once you have selected it, you will see it's a very tiny icon right there. So I am going to change my height and width of my icon. And I'm going to make the height quite large because I want to be sure that it covers my entire screen as my background image. I'm going to click OK. Oh, I do. There we go. Now, this happens to be an image that had some text tied with it. Well, obviously, this is also a good way to determine whether or not your image is going to work. So I have my background image here. And now I want to drop over some functionality for my user to contact me. So my call button, again, you can determine if you want it to have any information. You might want to put call us, call an agent, whatever it is. The phone number is the actual phone number that you want them to be able to dial. Again, you can change the height and width of your icon. It is a personal preference, and you also can change your icon. So if you don't like the little green phone that we have, you can change that icon just as we did with others by picking something from our library, uploading something from your computer, or finding an image on the web. I am going to leave it the way it is for now. Oops, sorry. And once I'm all set, I'm going to click OK. Once you have done this and saved your app Again, you can test it on your device. When you go out and open up your app, you'll click on the call button and you will see that it actually will go right to the call screen with the number that you put in pre-populated, and the user just will push their send button. So the same thing is true of email. So I'm going to bring my email icon over, and again, the email to, you decide this email address where you want users to be able to contact you or your business. You can choose to change the size of your icons or not, and you can specify your icon. And again, you always have the ability to make this a text-only button as well. So if for some reason I don't want an icon related to this, I just want it to be text-only and I want it to say email. Now I have a button that is text-only and says email. As well, we've pre-configured an SMS button for you, so if you want users to be able to text your business, same type of thing. You can call it whatever you want. And we really have tried to make this as easy as possible for you so that users will not only have ease of functionality on their end, but hopefully you'll have ease of functionality on your end in building this app. And again, for the texting purposes, you simply define the phone number that you want here. And message would be if you had some sort of predefined message. So you don't want your users to really be able to have to put anything in there. Again, perhaps, excuse me, you are a hotel and users have gone out, they're looking for something really specific, they have a particular request, and it's a kind of request that you get all the time. Users are always asking, can I have a room with a fireplace? That sort of thing. You could put this message in here so that when the user texted you, all they would need to do is push the text button, the message is automatically filled out for them, and they hit send. And now if I wanted to add some kind of text, again, I think now that I've looked at my background image and I realize that it says I need to click for full resolution, I don't necessarily want to use that image now. I'm going to go and change my image. So I clicked my edit button here, and I'm going to change my image. I'm just going to upload something that I have in my computer. And once my image comes up, I can click OK. And I'm not going to change the specs here because I think that's going to work for me for my background image. And now you can see my background image right here. And I'm going to move my buttons around now that I've seen how my image lays out on my screen. Again, lots of flexibility here. And I also decided that I wanted to add some text here. I can pull over my text button and say whatever I want here. It would help if I could spell. You can change your font size for the text that you've just put in there. And you can make it left aligned or center or right. Change the color of your font, again, which this gives you the availability to change the color of your font even though there's a color that was predefined. Using this particular text button allows you to have even more flexibility because there are some cases where perhaps the color that you predefined for your text might not work very well with a background image that you're using. So you want to be able to change it. And you can determine how much of the screen you want this text to use up. I actually want my message to go all the way across the screen. So I'm going to click OK. And now you can see there is my message right there. And again, saving your app as you go along ensures that you don't lose any of the changes that you have made so far. Once you've saved your app, you'll see this message every time. Your app has been successfully saved. If you had not yet downloaded the SnAPPii Preview app and you wanted to do so right now using your QR scanner, you could simply scan for your various device, Apple or Android, and you would be able to see the Preview app, download it, and have your app available for previewing. We're actually going to look at the web app just so you can see what it looks like on this end now. You can see my various tabs that I have available right now. Powered by is a default SnAPPii screen. That's the splash screen we talked about in the beginning of the webinar. You would change that, of course, to be your own splash screen related to your business. But you can see if we click on any one of these tabs, there's our social tab that we set up with our image that we had dropped in. Facebook is actually going to take us right out to the SnAPPii Facebook page because that is how I had set it up. So that just shows me from the web app that it is working. And the contact us page, again, which we had set up, you can see here, has all of the information that we put in our app. And you'll also notice the various bars we have all of the color theme that we selected earlier. So this is just another way to see quickly that your app is working. Again, this is a web app. If you're launching only a web app, this is where you would see the information. But of course, if you are planning to launch for the Apple or Android stores or both, you would want to be sure that you've downloaded the SnAPPii Preview app and then can log in, see your app, and test its full functionality and have native view exactly as your users will have it. So today we have gone over how you can select from either a ready-made, pre-built app and use that as a template to make changes to start building your app, or start from scratch with a blank screen. We've gone over how to add a background image right here, adding your one-touch email, calling, and texting buttons, how to add a tab, for example, like Facebook, so that when users click on this tab, they can either log into their own Facebook account and pull in their feed, or if you have pre-configured it to go to your company's Facebook page, users will be able to see that feed within the app. And then we also went over bringing over your various social buttons, how you can use default icons that you select, or text only, and how to add an image to your button. Again, over here in App Settings, we talked about your icon, which is the icon that will show for your app in the app stores, your splash screen, again, that powered by screen that we just saw. You will need to add in your own information, whether it's a company logo, photos, or any combination thereof, and then how you can determine the various color scheme that will be associated with your app. Also, the information here, app information, relates to what will show up in the App Store to describe your app. The Miscellaneous has various things like the message that your users will see if they sign up in your app, if you do in fact have registration capabilities set up. Choosing the language for your app. There are 17 different languages supported for SnAPPii right now. Your web app settings, so if in fact you were going to have a web app, you'll notice when we went out there, you saw all of my icons, just one right after the other here. That's because I had the list layout selected, but you could, of course, select from the different variations we have here. User management, which helps determine what your users can see in your app, whether it's everything for every user, and so it would be general mode, or various things for various users. So for example, if you had a section of your website that you only wanted your registered users to be able to see, you would upload a members list or a predefined users list based on however you'd like to lay it out, so that those particular members or users would be able to see a certain set of information, but all users would be able to see everything else. And then our PayPal settings. Again, this is if you were going to have any type of e-commerce capability in your website and you wanted users to actually be able to make a purchase of some sort. As I mentioned, we do have a webinar out on the website under the educational webinars section, specifically related to implementing e-commerce functionality from product lists to QR codes, from product lists to QR codes to setting up your PayPal. And you can find that information on the SnAPPii website under webinars. And that is the basics of how to begin to build an app with SnAPPii. Certainly, if you have any questions, let me just check the question box here one more time. And I see that we don't have any questions. So I will just say again, please be sure that you download the SnAPPii Preview app from your device, whether it is a smartphone or a tablet device, so that you can test your app as you are working on it. We will be doing a number of these webinars that walk through different functionalities in building the app. So we'll come back to this app in a future webinar and add more capabilities to it as well. You can see on our webinar section of the SnAPPii website, there are a number of product tutorials and webinars that have already been recorded that walk you through many of the different functionalities of SnAPPii in greater detail. So for example, if you wanted to be able to get into lists, advanced lists, forms, and so forth, there are tutorials out on our website that will walk you through each one of those functionalities in greater detail. Thank you so much for participating in our webinar today, and have a great day.